Hello and welcome to my Zelestia guide. In this guide I'm going to be talking about Zelestia, what she can do, and how cool she is to use. Starting class is Melusine, and what she can do is a lot of things. She has a good mix of stats. Her bases are pretty good. She has kind of average strength and magic in general, so she can kind of use both to some degree. Her speed is really high. Her speed growth is 65% on her personal class, which is very good. She also has 45% strength and magic, which is not bad. In terms of raw damage, she won't have the highest magic stat, but she does have speed, so all you need to do is fix her damage to some degree, and she'll be doubling. She also has a pretty impressive 9 build, and a build growth of 10% when you factor in both her base growth rates as well as her class. Her personal skill is Friendly Boost. When a unit defeats a foe, grants hit plus 20 to allies within 2 spaces for 1 turn. So this works on a single enemy player phase, enemy phase, and this can trigger on enemy phase. So if an enemy attacks you and she kills it, it can trigger it for the next turn. So that's just something to take note of. Pros and the cons of running Zelestia. I would say for pros, you have great bases. You have a unique Mage Knight Wyvern class. Essentially, it's a Mage Knight on a Wyvern. You have good growths, and she's also a great Levin Sword user because she has access to Levin Sword on a flying frame, and you can run Sword Power to further damage boost her. You could also run something like Bolganone, and she would be similarly effective, but it won't be as much damage. The cons, I would say, really just 2. You must complete the Xenologue per save file to use her, and she has flyer weakness. I don't really think she has that many downsides. She seems to be quite a strong unit in general. There doesn't seem to be some obvious glaring flaw. She's basically a lot like Ivy, but a little bit better and a little bit faster. So you can't really go wrong using her. The level of investment to start using Zelestia, I would argue, is very low outside of completing the Xenologue. So if you already have the Xenologue completed on a master save file, all you have to do is just start using her and just throw some items on her, like a Bolganone, a Levin Sword, whatever setup you want to use, and maybe unlock a few passives and she's good to go. What are the best classes for Zelestia? Honestly, she can go on anything. Her bases are so generic that she could be good on pretty much any class. She has 17 starting strength and 18 starting magic, but that's on her personal class. So if you actually change her classes, her bases will change a little bit. But she has high internal speed, and she also has good build, so she can go on any physical class and any magic class. And she could also be pretty good at being a Martial Master because she has good mixed stats, right? And Martial Master uses strength and magic. So she could literally be anything you want her to. Now, what is she specifically the best at? It really depends on what your team wants, but she would be a really good Mage Knight if you want to keep her on magic. Sage is a strong option just to get her higher magic growth. She would be a good Wyvern too. Like, look at these bases. She'd be a decent Griffin Knight. Griffin Knight's very fast, and it also gives her staff utility. Now, her unique class does have a specific skill that's okay in some instances, Soul Blade. When attacking with a sword, damage is calculated using the average of foe's defense and res. So this is kind of weird because it can kind of hurt you. Now, what you should do is you should run a Levin Sword and maybe a Bolganone Tome, so that way you kind of have both things. So you would use Bolganone when the enemy has low res, otherwise it's going to boost their defense, which is not ideal. And if you want to run her on any physical class, you can, because she has 35% strength and magic growth, as well as dex, and she has like some of the best growth rates. She's one of those units that has crazy good growth rates and good bases. She's very much like a Kagetsu. So what are good passives for Zelestia? So this is going to be assuming like a magic using class or her base class. So I would say you can't go wrong with getting something like speed plus 3 to 5 or speed taker as one of your main things, just to keep her speed well beyond other enemies and just keep her within doubling range. If you don't want to go the speed route, anything in Soren, you could go for the magic res. You're probably better off just going for magic because it's cheaper. SP cost of 8.4k is very steep, so I can't really recommend that. On the opposite side, Celica, Magic plus 5 is only 5k, so substantially cheaper. Now, Reprisal is good on any unit, so if you want to run this, you have to keep their health low, though. So if you want to run like a Reprisal plus build, you can keep a unit's health as low as humanly possible, because whatever half of what's lost is added to attack. On Sigrid, you can't go wrong with Canter. It's just free mobility. Hit plus, she isn't something she should be using. Lance power could be used if you want to run some kind of lance build on, Wyvern, on, I don't know, Mage Knight, something like that, like a Flame Lance build with lance power 5. Now on Roy, you can get sword power or holdout, both of which are really good. Holdout is actually pretty good on dive units, so that you have a get out of jail free card. Sword power is really good with 11 sword build. So if I wanted to make her 11 sword user, I could do that. If I just want to keep her on tomes though, I could go for magic plus, or just feed her some magic dust and call it a day. So what are some good emblems for Zelestia? I would say Lyn is good if you just want to get tons of speed, if you want Speed Taker and Alacrity for free. She's not the best user of Astrostorm unless she's on a specific class that has high enough strength to take advantage of it, but she's an okay Lyn user. Most units that are combat units or hard carries can leverage Lyn for extra speed and just becoming a hard carry. I would skip Erica, Ike, Lucina, and Corrin. This is like a physical unit. This is for like physical units mostly. This is for like tanks. Erica does increase magic, but she doesn't really help you that much as a mage. Like there's other things that you can do with different emblems. Like this is usually just better off on a physical unit. This is better off on a tank. This is better off on a support unit, like a Chi Adept or something. Corrin, I would say, is good on non-hard carry units who you just want to have be crowd control units, or on dragon units so that you have access to all the different tiles. Byleth is a good emblem for her. It gives magic and speed, which, more doubling, more damage. The only downside is the other passives aren't that good. Like Divine Pulse is kind of whatever. Instruct isn't really that useful here. Res plus 5 is not the best Instruct. And Goddess Dance, giving res plus 5 to things isn't really that useful. Tiki, she could be an okay Tiki user. Tiki's good on pretty much anyone. It just makes you more durable and just gives you access to doing attacks if you need them. Hector, he's definitely better on physical tanks. So unless she's going to be a physical tank, it's not really worth it. Soren is good for her. He increases magic. He gives things like bolting. Sign Decoy utility is nice so that she can kind of be in the fray and then use another unit as a lightning rod and kind of play off of tanks. The flare can be decent. The cataclysm can be decent as well. There's also the tanking. If you want to run like a holdout Soren build on her, you can do that so that he can cause her to heal, and she can use holdouts to not die and essentially tank. That's like a thing that a lot of units can do. Chrom, I wouldn't run Chrom on her. I mean, there is the plus 10 magic aspect, which is nice. He doesn't increase magic. He does increase speed, though. So he does increase speed, and when you are engaged, you get plus 10 magic, which is substantial. It's like nothing to, ignore. Camilla, this gets you some speed. You can also... Camilla is very much like Corrin. The thing about Camilla is I'd rather have her on someone who doesn't have flying, so that when you pop Camilla and it triggers Soar, that unit can now fly. So I'd rather Camilla be on someone else. Edelgard, I would say, is a waste on her unless she's going to be a physical build. There are better units, like physical nukes should be running Edelgard. Veronica, this is pretty good in some ways. You get the staff that they can't counterattack. You can summon dudes, you can dance things. I do always feel like this is better off on utilities because you get the hero summon and the dance. Reprisal is really strong though, but I think it's better on other units, though the staff is kind of nice. So you could run Veronica on her. Other emblems that I just don't have in the save file. Celica. Celica's a pretty solid option. She increases strength, magic, and res. The magic increase gets up to plus 5. Holy Stance is okay. Echo is decent if you're running chain attack spam. Warp Ragnarok is good for diving, so Celica can be a good option. Micaiah can be a good option if you want to give her staff access, which is something she does lack, and you can get her up to A rank staff access. So Cleric ++ at bond level 18. Unit can equip staves up to level A. So if you want to get her staff access, Micaiah is great for that. Micaiah also increases magic, which is nice. That's more damage. The other things Micaiah can do, obviously, warp strats. She's another... This turns her into kind of like a Hortensia, where she's like a flying unit who now has, warp access. To wrap up, let's just talk about equipment. I would say she generally just wants a Bolganone, maybe an Excalibur or Thoron tomes with engraving and upgrades, and potentially a Levin sword if you want to go the sword route. You can run other swords as well if you want to run physical swords. I would just run Bolganone and Levin sword and then upgrade both. And then if you want to run sword power, you can. If you want to just go for the magic plus and some kind of speed fixing, you can. You can go for holdout. You can go for some kind of, Nosferatu tanking or Sorin heal tank build with holdouts as one of the passives. So she has some interesting options. That's pretty much it for this guide. Let me know what you think, and feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.